All right, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Independent Report. The other day I decided to make a video about a hopeful, soon-to-be candidate running for president of the United States, Governor Jesse Ventura. Okay. I went through and I kind of broke down how I came about Jesse Ventura a little bit. We talked a little bit about Jesse. We talked about the political climate. But today I'm going to be making a video and I'm going to do some more talking about Jesse, but I'm going to give the opportunity for Jesse to make his case. Okay. We're going to look at some old clips of Jesse Ventura that are floating out on the internet to be found, but certainly probably wouldn't be brought to your attention by the mainstream media because they don't want you to hear it. Now, here's the ironic part. This was all on mainstream media once upon a time. But if you were to run for president, they're not going to show you any of this. They'll probably tell you things like, oh, you know, he's a member of the Mongols and he's had all these, you know, crazy ideas over the years and 9/11 and the whole Chris Kyle thing, and they're going to do everything that they possibly can to tear him down while ignoring all the points you're about to hear him make in this video. But before we get to that, just want to make a quick shout out here real quick. I just finished a few hours ago making a video with a true gentleman. I was honored to go on his program. I had a hell of a time. If you haven't gone over and checked out his YouTube channel, I highly recommend it. That is the Beer Experience 360. It was a part 1 video today. We're going to be working on doing a part 2 video next Saturday. Okay, and I actually, since I had a birthday fairly recently, I actually got a lovely craft beer glass as a birthday present that I was able to use today during our video. I don't know if you can see what all it's got on the front of it right there. But it's a lovely present. It's got my name, the YouTube channel, and nickname down below, the Vigilant Independent. Okay, so I was very thankful that I got that, but I was certainly able to put it to use today. It was a hell of a video. I had a lot of fun and look forward to going back on the channel. So again, if you haven't checked him out, if you like beer, you like drinking good beer, you want to maybe learn about some new beers, if you're not one of those that just got a go-to that you drink all the time, maybe you want to try different things, you want to kind of get an idea of what's good, maybe what's not so good, highly recommend going to check him out. You'll get plenty of beer review and plenty of good discussion. So with that being said, now let's hear from the man himself, Jesse Ventura, and let's hear him talk about some of our key issues we've faced over the years, mainly pertaining to war, but let's hear what he has to say about it.
Let's remember, I stand for freedom. Let me give it to you this way, Donnie. If America is changing because of the war on terrorism, then the terrorists are winning. Because we may be beating them on the battlefield, but if we're getting our freedoms taken away and America changes because of what terrorisms do, the fear of terrorism, and government there to protect us, well, then, in my opinion, the terrorists are winning.
But Jesse, you have to admit, if we don't do something, the reality is terrorism is a new kind of war, and it's nothing we've faced in our over 200-year history. And some things have to be done differently. This is a different kind of enemy, and to put your head in the sand and say, we can't change anything, I just think it's ignorant.
Wait a minute. Nobody's putting their head in the sand. We're as ill-prepared for terrorism as we've ever been. Take a look at the hurricanes that just hit this country. They were even announced 3 to 4 days ahead of time. Okay. Now, when the terrorists hit us, do you think they're going to send us a memo telling us 3 to 4 days ahead of time we're going to hit you? Get prepared. We couldn't even handle what happened in New Orleans, and yet we're being sold by our politicians that we're safer today, that we're out there protecting you. We've got this big government bureaucratic agency on terrorism that's going to protect you. It's a bunch of hogwash, Donnie, and if you believe it, you're naive.
Jesse, you once said you think there should be a restaurant in the White House 2008, so you're the guy in charge now. How do we make ourselves safer from terrorism? It's easy to throw stones. Give me some answers. Yeah.
Well, the first thing would be to go get a terrorist that attacked us. You know, we're never successful until bin Laden is 7 feet under.
Okay.
And instead, we're now fighting in Iraq, a country that never attacked us. There wasn't one terrorist in 9/11 from Iraq.
Okay.
15 of the 19 were from Saudi Arabia. 48% of the insurgents you hear about in Iraq right now are Saudis. Why are we fighting the Iraqis? It's about the same. Wait, if we went back to World War II for a moment, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, maybe we should have attacked Korea. After all, they're Asian too.
Mm-hmm. Look, my friend,
that's the mindset that was used here.
You wouldn't get an argument from this show. Strategically, that was certainly not the most judicious way to spend $200 billion to fight terrorism. But so what do we do? Okay, let's say now you got to go get bin Laden. Why can't we find this guy? This is the one question I don't understand. He's a 6'6" Arab guy. We have unlimited funds to spend. You put $1 billion on his head as a reward. Why can't we get this guy?
Because I don't think we want him that bad.
Tell me what makes you say that. Why don't we want him that bad?
Because we should have gotten him. That's what tells me that. We've had since 9/11/01 to get this guy, and we failed miserably.
You can go down the old road of our battle. You do not like the Bush administration.
No.
All right, you don't like Dick Cheney. I got that. I understand that. But I want to ask you some new questions.
All right.
All right, if you're game.
Sure.
All right? Because what is it? What do you think of Barack Obama?
I think he's exceptionally intelligent. From when you hear him speak and through.
He reads a teleprompter. Oh, come on.
Well, at least we got a president now who can read one.
Listen,
we didn't have that.
That's not a sign of intelligence. But
yes, it is.
No,
if you're not capable of reading a teleprompter.
No, it's not.
No, I'll say this. I think he's very intelligent. I think it's far too early to be judgmental because let's face it, he inherited a mess. He inherited 2 wars. He inherited economy in the tank. Economy in the tank, 2 wars. Yeah. I wouldn't have wished that on my worst enemy.
Well, George Bush inherited a recession. George Bush inherited the negative.
No, he
Let
did
me
not.
finish. Yes, he did. Oh, yes, he did.
Wait a minute.
Oh, yes, he did. And the negative impact of 9/11.
All right. You're telling me that the United States was better off after George Bush or before him?
After.
Oh, my God. How can you make that statement?
You just did. And I'll tell you why.
Well, I don't even need to talk to you about it then.
It's not about Republicans.
It's ridiculous. This country was far better off before George Bush than it is after George Bush.
Want me to quote you the 9/11 Commission report? For an entire decade... I'm glad I can make you laugh.
You can. When you bring up the 9/11 Commission, that makes me laugh. Because they didn't investigate nothing.
Well, I agree, and to one extent you're partially right, but they did get one thing right, that there were a group of radicals that were at war with the United States, and we weren't at war with them. Yeah. We saw the first Trade Center bombing, the embassy bombings, the USS Cole, and we have radicals that think God is going to reward them in heaven with virgins, Jesse. How do you stop them? What do you do? Tell me what you do.
You pay attention to memos on August 6th that tell you exactly what bin Laden's going to do. Instead, we hear Condoleezza Rice going, I didn't know what they were going to do. And the memo says bin Laden set to hijack planes and ram them into buildings.
I have a better idea.
And your buddy, George Bush, he was on vacation in Crawford at the time. Did you know he took over 900 days of vacation?
No, president's never off. The president said, do you know that, let me give you an example.
This one was, he wasn't on his watch because the biggest attack in history happened on his watch.
See, but oil and corporations.
They are, but they're all religious based too.
So they're all about religion and oil and corporations.
Could be.
And occasionally getting rid of the Nazis.
Yeah.
So my point is, the Nazis can be over many things.
The Nazis was religious too. Look what they did to the Jews. So that brought religion in. Vietnam was religious because Diem, our puppet president, and our country brought 100 Christian Vietnamese down to the south to be the government. Well, the southern Vietnamese didn't like these religious characters from up north, so they then became the Viet Cong. So all wars, pretty much in my lifetime, have had some religious basis, but certainly big business gets in there because wars are very profitable to certain big businesses. And, of course, big business needs to be in the Middle East so that we can get the oil out of the Middle East, so we can get the lithium out of Afghanistan. You know, they discovered a vein of lithium there they say is worth $1 trillion. Well, what is lithium used for? Every cell phone, computer, and soon to be electric cars. Let's talk about why we're really there. We're not there. How does any of these wars affect our freedom in any way? The United States is not in any threat. They're not going to do a Normandy invasion on us, Al-Qaeda in Virginia.
No, but hang on, you're being slightly naive, aren't you? Because
I'm not being naive, sir.
I think you are being naive.
No.
Because I think that it's clear one of the main reasons that America went into Afghanistan was to try and get Al-Qaeda dismantled, the organization which committed the 9/11 atrocity.
Really?
Well, you don't think so?
Well, how come Al-Qaeda put the heroin business out? They took all the poppy growers and stopped the production of heroin.
What would you have done?
Wait, now how much of that illegal heroin was propping up the international banks with laundered money, and when it dried up, the first recession happened? Well, now that we're back in there, we aligned with the poppy growers, and the heroin business is back up full swing again. I thought we fight a war on drugs here.
All right, Jesse,
Seems we're not. So quickly like they did Lee Harvey Oswald. How quick they knew Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy.
Because the people who did it were identified and we knew who they were.
Well, then why couldn't we have stopped them beforehand if they were identified and we knew who they were?
It was a failure of intelligence. Everyone's accepted
No, it
that.
wasn't. We knew before with Condoleezza Rice's memo on August 6th when it stated right in the memo, bin Laden to steal planes and run them into buildings. And more stuff is coming out now also, how much the Bush administration ignored the intelligence. It was almost like they ignored it because they wanted it to happen.
Oh, come off it, Jesse.
No, not come off it. Wait a minute. Every war fought starts with a false flag operation.
You can't, in all seriousness, sit there and try and make out anybody.
Okay, let me ask you this, Piers. Wait a minute. Let me ask you something. How much studying have you actually done of 9/11 other than what the government's told you and what mainstream media has told you? I've been studying it 4 years.
I was editor of a national newspaper.
I've talked to people.
Wait a minute. Every day for 5-6 months.
Really?
So I know a lot about it.
Well, then how come? Let me ask you this.
You cannot say that any member of the Bush administration knew it was going to happen or wanted it to happen. It's a ridiculous thing to say.
Ridiculous. Okay, let's talk about your BBC. I have a tape of a BBC reporter broadcasting directly back to England talking about a third building has collapsed. World Trade Center Building 7 talks for 7 minutes. All the while she's talking, World Trade Center Building 7 is still standing right behind her. It didn't fall for another half hour. Yet they were doing a pre-broadcast back to England that, yes, it's true,
you need to
that this building fell and it hadn't fallen yet.
If you're trying to make out the British Broadcasting Company, one of the most respected news organisations in the world, was inventing huge buildings falling over, you need to have a break, Jesse. We'll come back after the break and we'll talk about Israel and Iran.
Are you kidding me? This is a fact, my friend.
You have about 9/11 and so on. Let's move on to...
and the government only has a theory.
Right, well, the government has...
No, this is a theory. Their theory is 19 Islamic radicals armed with box cutters defeated our multi-billion-dollar air defense system, all while conspiring with a bearded guy in a cave in Afghanistan.
That is exactly what happened.
That's their theory.
And you make some crackpot points.
That's your opinion?
Yes.
How many people here think I make crackpot points?
Yeah.
1. How many think I make sensible points? You're in the minority, my good friend. You're the minority.
Has the government of the world's great superpower really shut down, or is this just some vast conspiracy?
Well, you know, they're shut down, and I guess my question would be, since the government shut down, that should mean we shouldn't have to pay any taxes, right? Yet it's not going to work that way, is it? Even though they're not working, we're still going to be paying. I think it's time for a revolt in this country. I've been advocating a revolution for years now. Revolutions don't have to be violent, but we need one, and I would tell everybody here, vote them all out of office, and wait, don't vote in a new Democrat or Republican. Vote for anyone but Democrats and Republicans.
Well, it's quite interesting, actually, because let's take a little look around this room here, because I did a little sample. You weren't all hand-picked for any political persuasion, but how many people here are Republicans? So just a few hands. How many are Democrats? A few more hands. And how many are neither Republican nor Democrats? So you are the Jesse Ventura future of American electorates.
We are the majority.
But how much of that do you think, this is just a random section of people that pitched up to watch the show, but how much of this is down to just general dissatisfaction with the American political system?
Well, it's because the Democrats and Republicans have created this corrupt system, and they've been in charge now for 150 years. They've created a system that's based completely on the concept of bribery. If you pay them and bribe them, you get audience with them. If you don't, you're out the door. And so we need to get away from this concept of bribery. And that's why I'm considering making a run. But I need to, a couple things have to happen first. But I would run on this, ladies and gentlemen. My simple campaign would be this. I would give you the opportunity to elect the first president of the United States that does not belong to any political party since George Washington. He is our only president that belonged to no political party. And I think it's high time we elect someone that does not belong to these two gangs, because it's the gangs that dictate what's going on. This is all gang warfare here. This is gang warfare, where the gangs put themselves first, the gang's money first, and we, the country, become second or third. We're actually third in line.
I would say that message right there pretty much speaks for itself. What Jesse is talking about is he's getting down to the root of the problem with the two main political parties in this country. Now, this is something I kind of got into a little bit of a discussion about over on my video that I made just a little bit earlier today when I went on the Beer Experience 360. Any political party, for that matter, any person, has the capabilities of potentially being corrupted unless you're simply that morally righteous of a person. As long as big money is allowed to influence what goes on in politics, you're going to keep getting a lot of these same things, which is why it is so imperative that this political system not only vote these corporate people out of office to replace them, but then we've also got to make serious reforms to how politics is done. You have to get big money out. You've got to repeal Citizens United, right? You got to get rid of all these things. Also, let's just make keynote for some folks out there. The people who've been cheering on people like Bernie and things like that, while there are some things I feel like maybe Tulsi would focus on or Bernie would focus on that you don't hear Jesse talk too much about, there's one thing that's for sure. Ventura bucks the establishment and the establishment's leaders in particularly way more than we've seen Bernie Sanders do. Bernie Sanders is a guy who was an independent and has actually kissed the butt of the Democrat establishment time and time again for the last couple of years. And here's the ironic thing about that. You know who's called the actions of Bernie? You know who called it ahead of time that said, yeah, Bernie's not really a true independent anymore. He's a Democrat through and through, and I know that? Jesse Ventura. He actually said that because, see, he, being another independent, tried to talk to Bernie one time and basically said he was completely snubbed off. The clip's floating around there. He said, I tried to talk to him. I asked him, would you continue the fight if you get cheated by the Democrat? And he said, nope, I'll support Hillary Clinton. And he said that basically the remark he gave to him was very brief. He didn't want to talk. He just kind of answered him and moved on about his way. So he didn't give Jesse, a former governor, the time of day. Another independent didn't give him the time of day. So I think that kind of gave Jesse some sour grapes as far as Bernie was concerned back then. So Jesse was one of the few people out there calling it, saying, yeah, this guy's going to let you down in the long run. Okay, which is why when a lot of people tried to equivalate me when I got critical of Tulsi praising Biden, saying, oh, you going to do that to Bernie? There's a reason I was critical of Bernie the entire time. I can't respect a guy that I don't feel like has respect for himself. Anybody that would just sit there and take it the way Bernie did when he got screwed by the Clinton machine in the DNC the last time around and just bend over and take it and ask for another round, I can't respect that person. He's got no respect for himself. He is sheep herding all the people over to the Democrat Party to vote for a corporate candidate that represents almost everything he said he was against when he ran on 2 occasions. So, that being said, hey, let's get some more of these videos around. It doesn't have to be any of these you saw here, or if you find the clips online that I've used in this video, share them around, because we need to get Jesse into this race to be that third-party option, to be that third-party candidate, because, whether he's going to win or not, we need to make a statement out of it. If we can get Jesse Ventura, Governor Ventura, on the ballot, okay, people need to make a statement. Do not go out there and vote for the Democrat or the Republican. This whole buying into the lesser of two evils thing, I said it the last time around. When it was 1992 and H.W. Bush lost, they tried to say it was because of Ross Perot. Oh, that doggone Ross Perot. Okay? And likewise, people try to say that it was because of Ralph Nader that George W. Bush beat Al Gore. Okay? So, in other words, for all the people out there claiming that if I vote third party or you vote third party and they tell you you're voting for the other side, understand this. That's nothing but a weak, spineless way of trying to take the blame off of their flawed candidate. They're trying to blame a candidate who is that flawed, represents the corporate establishment, therefore he won't win people's votes who are sick and tired of being screwed over by the corporate establishment. And because they don't want the other person to win, it's a way for them to pivot their guilt for voting for a very flawed candidate away from how bad he was and the fact they actually voted for him by blaming you, saying that someone they thought was a worse option won, instead of being like everyone else and finally taking a stand about it. It's just a way of trying to pass the buck and pass the blame. Hey, blame me if you want to, but the real culprit of all this are those corporate bought-off candidates you just keep voting for every 4 years and the political parties behind them. So if you really got a problem with it, I suggest you take it up with them.